every company has different emphasis and different process. However, they're all looking at three main things when they're looking at you as a product manager. They look at product and business understanding, right? You got to have a critical view on products. And it's really important, by the way, not just a general point of view on product management, what the role is, take a product that you like and kind of dissect it. Why do you like it? What is working well from a product management perspective, and not from an end consumer perspective? Oh, I just like the design. Why is the design that to help reach certain goals, to solve different pain points? And then what would you have done? What would you have changed and emphasized in product? And why would you do that? Right? That's kind of the product view on things. Which features would you build? How would you prioritize that? But it's also really important. So that's kind of the general product view on things that they will look at and to make sure you understand, but also in the perspective of that company, right? Like you got to understand their mission, their values, what do they care about. You got to have a point of view on their product. When you come to a company and you interview with Amazon, you can't just say, you don't have any point of view on product features and enhancement they can do for their own product. You just can't, because it means you're not ready. So you gotta look at one of their products if you're interviewing for a very specific role, right? Go look at those specific items and try and find information and form a point of view and things you would have changed and why. So that's kind of the product and business. They'll look at analytics and metrics. They'll look at that. Do you understand what metrics would those changes that you suggested will impact? How would you know if it's working or not? What would you look at in terms of the different metrics? Understand those definitions. Understand, like if you're interviewing with a SaaS company, what SaaS business cares about. And if you're interviewing with a B2C, what do they care about? If you're B2B, what do they care? There's different metrics to different things. And not all metrics are relevant to all businesses and all companies. So you got to understand that. You got to have ability for estimation problems. Sometimes they'll ask you, how many golf balls can I fit in a box? And it's not because they care about the end results. They want to see that you can take a problem, and this is what product management does. Take a problem and break it down into pieces, right? And then come up with back to the whole solution, right? So product and business we talked about, analytics and metrics, and behavioral. So as I said, right, the fourth circle would be like people, and behavioral is important for that. So they understand, how do you work with a team? How do you challenge people? How do you work with a difficult team member, which will happen to you? Not everyone wants product to guide them. Like some engineers that are senior, they have their own thoughts about things, and it's okay, right? But you have to be able to deal with that in a constructive manner and not break their working relationships, right? So they will work and try to understand how do you behave in those different scenarios. One of the things I would recommend is a book, and I don't get any revenue share with this recommendation. It's just I used that when I started my career as product management, and I thought it's really good, doing a good job is covering those. It's called Cracking the PM Interview, basically. It's by Gail McDowell, I think. So you guys can look it up. It's a orange kind of looking book. And it does a pretty thorough job of going through all those aspects we talked about, giving examples, how you should answer, and then giving you some exercises to work through those. I would say that, while it's really important to have this theoretical knowledge and working through with books and other resources online, there is no equivalent to sitting down with someone that actually has the experience of product management, because I think there's a lot of nuances that you might not even understand if you haven't been and done product management, and someone that can help you and guide you through those and sit with you and talk, and you guys can like give you a mock interview perhaps, or you have like you came up, you looked at a business and you said this is the features, and we'll sit down with you and kind of fine tune those things that you have to and how you would think about them, is invaluable in my point of view. and that could make the big difference from you from a success to non-success, and the speed of success when you're interviewing in those initial roles, because there's a lot to cover, and sometimes you don't need what you need to cover, and you don't know if the answers you provided are strong enough answers, and what else you can think about. So while I do recommend, obviously, have the theoretical knowledge, read the books, read the blogs, find a mentor that can help you with the interview process, and kind of someone to help kind of share thoughts and bounce ideas off. Well, I think that it's a great question. It's really hard to answer. When you look at research of different paths that people come into product management, they come from all walks of life, from all different disciplines. So there isn't really one path to follow. It's more of a passion-driven path. Um, so I would say what you need to align yourself in your career is making sure you're building the skill set to be prepared for the opportunity that will present itself at some point to get into the role of product manager, right? So we talked about the analytical skill set, right? In every role, you have to bring that. If you're in marketing, marketing is very data driven nowadays. A lot of return on investment analytics and metrics about funnels and conversions, which really resonates well with the role of product management as well. So you want to take that and leverage that. But then you want to make sure that you can talk to customers. So maybe, if you're coming into from a role of a customer support, that's also great, because now you can argue that you have the experience about understanding the customer point of view, the ability to talk to them and relate to their problems, right? So there isn't one specific path, but you want to make sure that you go to those roles, especially a business analyst, like you mentioned, is also a great one from analytics point of view. That you go into those roles that help you build you the skill set, and then help you articulate and demonstrate in your interview process how those skill set apply to your role, and why would they help you be successful as a product manager.
Type question, those come up, whether you're interviewing at Google or Amazon, etc. You want to have like a process for that. And if you're asking specifically about interviewing, I highly recommend reading Decode and Conquer, or Cracking the PM Interview. They have analytics sections, and these questions are really fun. These puzzles are really fun to solve. But the standard approach to tackling a analytical type question, like how many people are leaving the LA airport every day, is to clarify the question. Do you mean, are they leaving by aeroplane or cars or bus? Like, what, you clarify that question that person's asking you, right? So that you're answering the question that they're actually answering. Then figure out generally what your, either then write down your assumptions or figure out your equation, right? So your assumptions might be, well, how many people in the population, how many people live in LA, how many people land in LA. You might want to just go through and draw the assumptions that you think you might need to make an equation. Make your equation, and then start figuring out how you plug the pieces of your equation in. And in interviews that ask these analytical questions, not all companies do it, but those that do, it's good to have like an interview, like a data cheat sheet in a way. Like I actually have one of those myself. In Cracking the PM Interview, they have one, but it's a little outdated. But you could go and for the company you're interviewing at, how many customers does it say they have, if they're a public company, or if they're not, can you find any information about how many customers they have? Like go get some basic rough numbers about the company you're interviewing at. They may not ask you any analytical questions about the company itself. They may ask you the general, like how many golf balls does it take to fit in a 747, or how many policemen do you think there are in the US? You can effectively come up with they're not testing you for the answer. They're testing you for how you think about the problem, and how you communicate those thoughts. So you want to be very clear and use the whiteboard to write those numbers down, the assumptions, the clarifications as well as the equation for that thing, right?
Perfect.
You want to get your question, like, you don't want to be orders of magnitude off, and you won't be if you hit it properly. So like, let's say your resulting answer to that was, the actual answer to how many people leave LA airport every day is something like, 500,000. You don't want your answer to be, 100 million, but if it's 1.5 million, that's not orders of magnitude different, right? If it's 300,000 or, whatever, like 2 million even, that's not orders of magnitude different. So you want to be, you don't want to just throw random numbers out there, and you want to double check your calculations as you make that. Because whatever time you spend on prioritizing things has multiplying effects. Like, if you end up building the wrong thing for the company, that's even if it's one engineer, that's, you're burning through money, lots of money and time on many people's part. So however much extra time you have, you should use on prioritizing things. That being said, the goal of the EDD process, at least for the first two parts, like that sheet that I went through and the scoring, that can be done in an hour. Like, we'd often get requests from the CEO or execs, hey, we've got this great idea, go figure it out, right? Or go build it. Like, stop what the team's doing. Just your engineering team might have been working on a product for a month. So you've already invested 100 grand in the product, and now your execs got some hot new thing they want to go build. It's very derailing. So it's worth taking an hour or two, going to flesh out what that thing actually is, and then feeding it back to your management chain, and saying, hey, this is what we think we heard. Is this right? Is this really what you want? And it helps do a quick turnaround for so that your execs can see, hey, this person I'm paying top dollar for has done a lot of thought about this very quickly, right? They've covered all the bases, and we think that it's scored. And then also by looking at what your scores are, and that score sheet doesn't take long to do, right? You're looking at an hour's worth of work initially, and then later you spend more time on it. Once someone says, hey, go do that product, or go flesh that out more, you can go and spend more time on it. But to answer your question, the initial part is very quick, right? You want to spend an hour, maybe 4 hours at most, going and getting that initial sheet done, right? And you can refine it over time. If you have 2 days to do it, great, like, do more research. But doing that homework up front is better than, being a headless chicken in the office. What our rule of thumb was, is to try do at least one per critical number, right? So if you've got 7 critical numbers, you want to do 7 experiments. And those don't necessarily mean writing code or designing a workflow. They could just be ask BI for some information about something. So for example, let's say your company was doing, you thought you could make, that in the example in the deck that I just presented, there was a bookkeeper feature where you'd say, oh, we think we could charge customers extra $10 a month to have a bookkeeper. An experiment there might be to go to validate that number, go and interview 20 people and see if that seems okay to them or not. If they all say it's okay, that's 20 people you've interviewed before you've written any code to validate that shit, we could actually make money here. So look at your critical numbers, the ones that you're most unsure about, go through those and figure out what experiment you can run to become more confident, right? Before running off and spending, it's very, very compelling sometimes for people to go and just get their devs starting to build stuff and the design team engaged in designing stuff. As PMs, we really need to be a better filter for those teams and to use the resources wisely. It's different to the type of, like, if you're selling hardware devices, software as a service or tickets, right? It's going to be different. Like, so if you're Eventbrite selling tickets, your measurement is going to be around stuff, specifically around ticket sales, for example, perhaps. Whereas if you're a SaaS platform like or a marketplace, you're going to have different success metrics. These types of success metrics are very well documented and defined and discussed for different types of industries. For SaaS, as an example, you're going to want your cost to acquire customer, your churn rate, your lifetime value, sort of these high level numbers that are really important to that type of business. They're critical to that part of business. But then when you look at exactly the product that you launch, it's going to be slightly different. It's going to be, hey, what was the success metric for the company at the time we decided to do this product and ship it? So your company might be in a rapid growth phase. So your success metrics are going to be around, for example, user acquisition. Your company might be more mature and you've got customers already. You're not really worried about the funnel and you're releasing a product specifically in order to increase revenue. Then your success metric for that product is going to be around revenue. And if your product is hardware, revenue is going to be based on maybe sales of hardware or sales of, if you're iPhone if you're Apple iPhone or Amazon's Alexa, you're going to be looking at how much digital content is sold or products are sold through that hardware device, like the Echo as an example. So in other words, you as the product manager need to be very clear with your management, what is my success metric for this product at this stage in the company's life cycle?